Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle, and today Trevor is catching up on cinema. Just a disclaimer so you know what this is. Trevor and I basically recommend a movie to one another. The one who recommends has seen the movie, the other one has not. So in this case, I am recommending both Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2013, 81 8 in 2013, for Trevor to catch up on because he hasn't seen either one.
Yeah, funny fact. I have seen Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, but I never actually saw the original 1981 Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. Kyle talks about it all the time.
Not
It comes
all the
up in
time.
conversation.
Okay, sometimes, yeah.
Well, once a week, okay? It comes up in conversation quite a bit. Especially when we're talking about movies that seem to have been inspired by Evil Dead. And in a lot of ways, I feel like the legacy of this movie is much stronger than the actual film. It clearly inspired a lot of filmmakers from around the world. We actually covered a movie at one point called Versus from Japan that came out in the year 2000 that seems to have borrowed quite a bit from this movie.
I've definitely seen Sam Raimi's camera angles used. I think I saw it in Versus a couple of times.
Oh yeah, that tracking shot stomping through the woods in fast motion, and lots of weird close-ups with like lighting from below that just highlight all the weird crags in people's faces.
Well, I have to say this is probably my second favorite of the independent horror films that came out in the 70s and 80s. I think my favorite one has to be the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I think this one is really good as well because it's just as much fun to watch it as it is to kind of read up on it.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Did you read up on some of the trivia on it?
Most of what I know actually comes directly from you.
Oh, okay.
I know it's basically just a multi-year project with a bunch of friends, like film school friends, hanging out in the woods, basically.
Yeah, so it actually I think they did filming quickly in 1979. It took, I think it took a few weeks, but then the editing took about a year and a half to actually finish. So
I believe it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because at times, like something about the lighting and the makeup, there's a lot of weird inconsistencies there that gave me the sense that this was filmed over a long period of time somehow, like in the form of like reshoots. In particular, the later stages of the film where it's like, we only have Bruce Campbell on screen, so maybe like everyone else just like boogied out and was like, fuck this, we're out. And then Bruce Campbell's like, well, I guess it's just me.
Yeah, I believe that Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi actually did some of the I want to call it the one in the cellar. I think Ted Raimi is actually the one, for the most part, doing the one in the cellar.
Oh, like the actual acting? Like wearing the makeup?
I think wearing the makeup, yes.
I can kind of see it.
Well, have you noticed that it's Cheryl, the lady who plays Cheryl, she has a longer, like, Barbara Streisand kind of a pointier nose. And then if you look at the cellar demon, it's got more of, like, Ted Raimi's nose.
It's got the flared nostrils.
Flared nostrils,
and his distinctive bug eyes. like deep-set bug eyes. Ted Raimi's a weird-looking guy.
Yeah, he's an odd-looking fella.
And he appears in the weirdest of places.
Yeah, Dark Man.
That's doing work for his brother, so that's different. But
he's mostly in Ted Raimi.
He has like a very small role in Twin Peaks where he plays just like some random stoner punk who arrives in town.
He's a chameleon, man.
Yeah, that's Ted Raimi. You just never see him coming. And, Spider-Man, of course. Again, working for his brother.
But yeah, Bruce Campbell is the more noteworthy cameos in those movies.
Well, Darkman, he gets the dramatic head turn at the end.
Who does?
Bruce Campbell.
I didn't finish it.
Oh. Did you at least get to the carnival?
I got to the carnival.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to bed.
I won the pink elephant for my girlfriend.
Yeah, he's looking pretty gross. How is Francis McDormand buying that, by the way? Like, he's pretty gross looking.
Yeah, he's like awkwardly pale.
That's just me.
And yeah,
it's like we don't get much sun in Ireland.
You look dead. So I'll just do a plot summary for
this is for both films.
Both movies. It is a group of teens go to a cabin, and they are basically haunted and possessed by a demon or an evil spirit of some kind that they summon by reading a book bound in human flesh. It's explicitly stated in the original 81 Evil Dead, but it's not stated in 2013. And the reasons for them being at the cabin are different.
Well, in 2013 one, they had a budget.
Yes.
And production values to work with. So the description of it being bound in human flesh is demonstrated to us through visual storytelling.
Yes.
I don't think it's ever said, but just by looking at it, you can tell.
Yeah.
Which means it's a well-constructed prop, unlike the original Necronomicon from the 1981 version, which looks a little janky. I got a chuckle out of the illustrations in there.
Yeah,
they look straight out of like an EC comic or like basically like old horror comics from like the 50s or the 60s or something. It's like good art, but not great.
Not great.
Whereas,
good, but not great.
but even in the 2013 one, like some of the drawings in the book they're a little comic booky. Like they don't look like they came from like an ancient scripture or something, like Renaissance art or something.
It's funny, we just recently we recorded The Ninth Gate, which will be coming out eventually, but this is another book with...
yeah, what's up with you and demon books?
See, this is what happens. This is kind of how the show... like
Decapitations...
Depacketations.
Depacketations and books.
It's kind
demon
of how
books.
It's kind of how these episodes are going, is like we'll be talking about a movie that one of us is catching up on, and it'll bring to mind a different movie, like, oh, I've never seen that. Oh, well, that's probably where we should go from here. We've got to get out of death soon.
I don't think we're going to ever.
We have to get out of the month of October, because one of the reasons why I had you watch The Evil Dead is because one, it's Halloween time.
Absolutely.
And this is like top 5 Halloween movies to watch. If you want to get into the spirit.
Well, especially me, a 31-year-old movie fan that tends to go more towards the trashy end of cinema. This is like right up my alley. I should have seen this a long time ago when all my friends were watching it in high school and middle school.
Actually, you should watch your mouth. This is not trashy. This is independent filmmaking.
This is an indie film.
Actually, I want to go ahead and just put it out there. I think that the Blair Witch Project is a fantastic independent film. Independent horror
It's
film.
very good. Again, I feel like the legacy is stronger than the actual film.
I think it was just parodied too much. I think it was
overexposed.
Yeah.
To the point that they made a trashy sequel that dumped all the charm of the original.
I got about 8 minutes into that thing. I'm like, this is not going where I want to go.
I think I got about as far into that, like the same distance into that as I did Uwe Boll's House of the Dead.
Oh, you tried to get me to watch that.
As soon as they started showing Sega Saturn footage from the arcade game, like with filters put over it, like interspersed between scenes of live action,
yeah,
I was like, I'm done. I can't do this.
You need to
watch. Oh yeah, and it takes place at a rave on an island with zombies.
You should watch The Beach, because there's a lot of things that you just said in that movie.
But good, right?
Mostly. I still don't know how I feel about that movie. I've seen it a few times.
Well, it's come up in conversation before, so I have a feeling I'm going to have to catch up on that one at some point.
Oh, yes. The other reason why I had Trevor do The Evil Dead is because I think that Evil Dead 2013 did something that I don't know of any other horror movie. I don't know any other horror movie that's done it, and that is do a pretty good remake of the original. I can't think of too many other remakes of horror movies that were pretty good compared to the original. The Nightmare on Elm Street, awful.
Oof, yeah.
I didn't even watch the Friday the 13th remake.
It's passable. It's not great.
Gotcha.
What's his face? Like Brendan or Brian Mears, I think. Yeah, Derek Mears. My friend and I in high school went to this website all the time called Channel 101, and there was a guy on there, just an actor named Derek Mears. That we called him Bald Action Guy.
Bald Action Guy.
Because he was just like a 6.5 foot tall bald guy that was super jacked and would show up in all these shitty 5-minute internet shows because he was bald and jacked.
And now he's
like
Kane Hodder.
He's the new Kane Hodder. Like, no joke. He's like played Predators. He's played Jason. He's done mocap for Resident Evil movies. He's like one of those guys now.
You're never gonna see a 6'6", 300-pound homeless dude. Like, you've got options.
Oh yeah, in Hollywood you got options. Or you can like go to India and become a pro wrestler or something. Or go to Japan and become a pro wrestler.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake was meh. It was okay.
Again, passable. Like,
passable.
It justified its existence.
I had another one up just right there.
Well, I mean, The Thing is like the best one.
For you.
No. 1954, I think.
Oh, okay.
The Thing from Another World.
Oh, okay.
And then the John Carpenter The Thing is technically.
I thought you were talking about the remake.
No, not The Thing before The Thing. Not Thing 2011.
Okay.
Are you sure about that, bud?
Are you sure about that? I had one more around the tip.
Because I'm pretty sure we talked for about 2.5 hours about that one.
Halloween, that's what it was.
Rob Zombie.
Yeah, Rob Zombie's Halloween. I liked it. I don't remember the second one at all. The Rob Zombie second one. But the first 2 Halloween movies are great. The remake was good, and I've heard that the new one's supposed to be really good as well.
Yeah,
I'm hearing a lot of good things.
As far as I understand, they dump all the other movies except for the first one. So
Good,
even the
good.
second one that takes place on the same night, they dumped that too.
You could leave that one in there, but I like that. I like that they're just going straight from the first.
I mean, you may as well. And the second one was the one that introduced the concept of her being his sister and officially killed Dr. Loomis. Because that was the one that ended with the fiery explosion in the hospital.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So it's like if you cut it after the first one, though, there's potential for, I guess Loomis would be too old to
Loomis
be alive.
has got to be dead.
He's got to be dead and buried by then. But point is, there's no confirmation that they're related now. It's just, it was one night of terror in this one place, which makes a lot more sense when you think of, like, if your neighborhood had this fucker rampaging through it like every 5-6 years or something, the town would just be a complete shambles. Or it would be like Jaws Town or something, where they try to make like an attraction out of the murders.
Bring your kids here to get eaten by a shark.
Exactly.
Are you a teenage girl who likes to babysit? Well, you're gonna fucking die this October because Michael Myers is coming to town. And your friend who is kind of loose, yeah, she's dead too. Yeah, she's absolutely dead. And that guy that she's banging, yeah, he's dead as well. Welcome to Haddonfield, or whatever it is.
Haddonfield, Illinois.
But yeah, I think that I think the remake holds up. And I guess I think this will be a little bit of a shorter episode because we're not going to sit here and like praise how great Sam Raimi's Evil Dead was. For an independent film with a bunch of college students, basically.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like you look at it and you're like, oh, bless their hearts.
Yeah, it's
where it's like you can tell they had limited resources.
Yeah,
very, very limited resources.
And that's what you should rewatch that first one for. It is still fun. It's kind of a fun movie.
No, I think that's why my brother just skipped to number 2, because the way I saw Evil Dead 2 was, I think he asked to rent it. And, like, my mom picked it up for us. Like, I think he'd already seen it, but he'd already seen the first one.
Okay.
And me, like, he didn't care about me. But in terms of, like, what he wanted to watch that night, it's like, do I want to rent the first one or the second one? Of course the second one.
Well,
why the fuck wouldn't I rent the second one?
Well, the tone completely changes from the first one to the second one, and even more so the second to the third.
Oh, yeah. Army of Darkness is Looney Tunes.
It's just Looney Tunes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's really not a lot of, I can't remember any like comedic moments in the first one.
It comes at you from a funny angle where it has that, like, I'm not sure if that was meant to be funny, but to me it's funny.
In the second one, you're like, okay, Bruce Campbell is not a great serious actor. I haven't seen him try to be anything serious. He's too funny. Like, he's just one of those.
He can't help it.
Like we were saying, like Keegan-Michael Key. Like, if he's in a movie, you're like, he's gonna be funny because he's a comedic actor. He just is funny.
Well, there's just certain people that it's in their bones, where just the way they move. Like Bruce Campbell, there's a lot of shots in any movie that Bruce Campbell's in, but this one in particular, where Sam Raimi puts the camera right up into his face and puts the light right under it, and his face has just beautiful lines to it, and his eyes are always on the move. His eyebrows, he has a unibrow on this one.
Oh, I was gonna say that was one of the notes I had. Was like, and he's got a unibrow.
Yeah, he has that like Billy Zane style of acting, where like half of it's in the eyebrows and the other half's in the eyeballs.
Yeah.
And then he's got that chin, and it reminds me of like making short videos with my friend, because to me he just has a funny face.
He does,
and I just really love putting the camera as close to it as possible, just because every little twitch just does something for me.
Well, he's a good looking dude, but yes, he's still he just has a funny face. Like,
yeah, it's very animated and it looks like hyper real. Like he's like a living caricature.
Like I was watching I was not watching my housemate was watching Spider-Man 3, and he had never seen it before. I'm like, it's not a good movie. He was like, hey, I just want to watch it. I'm like, okay, cool. And I left him alone. Then I came out right when Bruce Campbell was doing his French thing. And it's so funny. It's still really funny.
Let me put it this way: it's not a very good movie.
No.
It's not very memorable, and yet I remember almost all of his lines.
Yes.
I remember that he calls him Becker. He's oh no, Peter. Becker. That's what I said. Becker. And then you said the fist pump really got
my
you.
life.
Yeah, he gives him the ring, and he just like without words, he just like clenches his fist and like draws it tight to himself.
Yeah, because he's face acting. He's just doing the facial expression.
Like, oh, with my life, monsieur.
I have an idea actually. We haven't done this with a movie. Let's, instead of taking it by the plot, let's kind of compare set lighting, makeup effects.
And just key moments.
Yeah, key things because, like you said, the plot is not deep here.
Oh people. Yeah, the plot, the script, it both takes a backseat in both of these films.
I will note that I do kind of like how they went about it in Evil Dead 2013. That gives them a different reason other than just the teens in the cabin getting drunk.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The cold turkey.
Yeah, they're wanting to get her to go
intervention angle.
Yeah, and well, this is the thing. I thought this was kind of funny. He's like, yeah. She said she stayed good last time we did this. I'm like, wait a minute. So we're doing 2 cold turkeys? I'm like, after she relapses after the first cold turkey, your sister's a heroin addict. Like,
it's like there's not much hope, and goddamn, you guys have a lot of patience.
Oh my gosh, you get one.
That lady's a nurse. I'm pretty sure she's on call.
You get one strapped down cold turkey from me. I'll give you that one. But if you relapse after that, you are on your own, man. These people are and her brother's the one that's like, oh, we gotta do this again. And the rest of them are like, yeah, man, she's your sister.
Yeah, you showed up late to your sister's intervention, dude.
But I think it was a creative way to get them back into the
really
woods.
Was. And it's funny because like both of these movies are, the 2013 one in particular is like relentlessly fast paced.
Oh yes.
As soon as it gets rolling, it just keeps on building and just goes nuts. Whereas Evil Dead 1, it has kind of an ebb and flow to it. Like it starts and stops. It comes in fits and spurts. Evil Dead 2 is more set to the pace of the 2013 one. But yeah, the pacing in the 2013 one, it's kind of goofy because that intervention angle, you would think would set it up to allow for more breathing room because like all the weird happenings in the woods and stuff, it gives her character an excuse to not be believed by the other characters. Where it's like, oh, she's full of shit. Like, there's no demons. There's no trees trying to rape people.
Yeah.
But it all comes together just like bang, bang. And so it's like, oh, why did we even bother with that?
Yeah, I was just saying, you could have drawn it out a little bit longer, but I respect their decision to just say, no, we have...
Well, you have all that momentum. You better keep it going.
Yeah, we have a dump truck...
Especially when there's no plot.
We have a dump truck full of fake blood that we have to get out soon.
It's like, this shit's gonna spoil.
Like, we have, like... You know when you make a mess, like it's really quick to make a mess and takes a lot longer to clean it up. I think that might have been their thinking. Like, we have a ton of fake blood and we got to get it all cleaned up.
Yeah, it's like, all right, is the set all dressed up? It's like, no, not quite. It's like, well, Luigi turned on the pump. It's like, you better get fucking going.
He is itching.
It's like the blood. It's coming into the rain pipes. You better hurry the fuck up.
Listen, he is a Gwar roadie. Okay, he is a fucking fake blood professional. Okay.
And he is on a goddamn schedule.
He is pissed, and they are about to go on tour, so we have got to go. So yeah, the fake blood obviously is going to be better in 2013, because it's 2013. But I read, of course, you read. Did you read at all about what they used for the fake blood?
No, you'll have to inform me.
So it was. I actually forgot. But one of the weird components of it was dry coffee creamer. So it was like maybe corn syrup, some kind of coloring.
Corn syrup's like the old-fashioned go-to.
Yeah, and then to make it a little thicker, and maybe for some of the stop motion, which I was really... I was going to ask you about that, but we'll get to that, because those are my favorite parts of the movie. Yeah, that's what they used. So coffee creamer was a little bit of something that they used in there.
Give it some texture.
And it would cake so thick onto Bruce Campbell's shirt that one of his shirts, it was so thick he ripped it cracked.
Like, I could see that.
But if you read the trivia, you can just see like this was really ambitious, and it shows. I think.
No, I think so, absolutely. That set in particular for a no budget indie film. They basically built a cabin.
It was a real abandoned cabin.
It was a real cabin. Well, the overhead lighting was very stagey.
Yeah, you could actually see some of like the open light bulbs.
It's a little embarrassing at times because it really does look like it's taking place on a stage. Because the lighting is so bright.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's so bright and it's shooting straight down in beams.
Well, let's talk about lighting. That's a good segue.
Okay.
So I actually noticed when Ash's sister Cheryl is possessed.
Yeah.
You get some really neat from underneath lighting, basically. You're getting what you would in a haunted house.
I mean, that's a trick we all learned as kids. You
Yeah.
put a flashlight under your face and it makes you look creepy.
Yeah, and they get the lights from under
Yeah.
there.
Lighting from below makes you look creepy. Lighting from above makes them abs pop.
I don't really think. Yeah, exactly. I don't know about the lighting when she's actually in the cellar though, because it doesn't look like there's any light coming from the cellar.
Yeah, no, there's no light coming from below there. I don't think there was enough room because her face is pretty much pressed up to the opening of it. But whatever they did lighting-wise for those shots, I really, really enjoyed it. And I kind of missed it in the 2013 one because I just want to call her the witch in the basement or the Baba Yaga or whatever. I mean, what, Sam Raimi is Hungarian or?
I believe so.
Yeah, it kind of has that vibe to it. Anyway, I kind of missed that in the 2013 one because the sister in the basement, she's like a constant annoyance, like a constant presence throughout Evil Dead 1.
Yeah.
Where she's either mocking them or taunting them and even like grabbing at Ash's ankles when he's trying to deal with other Deadites and stuff. Whereas in the 2013 one, the sister seems to be... They cut to her, but she's rarely pushing the trapdoor up, and we rarely see her in the same room as the rest of the chaos unfolding. She's less of an active presence. So we cut to her like huddled underneath the trapdoor, and it just, for some reason, it didn't work as well for me.
Well, and
also, there's the arc that she's going to become a more sympathetic character at some point, whereas in the original Evil Dead, there's no redemption arc for pretty much anyone.
Well, the difference is in the 81 version, Raimi uses different camera tricks and angles to simulate that something is coming to possess or is coming into the cabin, and they do that a little bit here, but it seems as though the demon is actually passed on through blood.
It's very vague in both films, but the first one definitely, well, all the Evil Deads basically, well, the first two anyway, Sam Raimi's, have constant cutbacks to some looming presence in the woods that I don't think we ever see, unless it was like the tree monster at the end of the second one.
So, it might be. I forgot about the tree monster.
Yeah, at the very end. But 2013, they have those shots, but I don't think we're ever really shown if there is even a thing, or if it's just, I don't know, supposed to be just some implied presence or something.
It's a presence from the book, but you actually do see the possessed version of Homegirl a couple of times, like kind of Blair Witching a little bit, like like
I interpreted that as the girl from the prologue.
Okay,
a lingering spirit or something that seems to come back at the end of the film. But those trademark like rushing camera shots that Sam Raimi uses, I mean, he uses those snap zooms. That's like his thing. He uses them even in the Spider-Man movies. It's delightful to see those in like ultra high budget, like glossy, like Hollywood pictures.
I'd have to rewatch those movies because I can't.
Just pay attention. Look for snap zooms. It's delightful is the word that comes to mind. But some of those exterior shots are very ambitious, where they used like many different lighting setups for each room of the cabin when the camera's like snooping around on the outside of the cabin, peering inside.
Well, they have a fire in the original one. They have a fireplace lighting up one for the most part. Ash and his girlfriend. And then the next one, I believe there's a red light.
They have the porn lighting.
Yeah.
Like, we have fried chicken, like neon lighting.
And then I think when Daphne and Fred are about to hook up, Daphne and Fred are gonna hook up.
Yeah, we get some side boob in there.
We get a little side boob.
And then the girl, I think she's drawing by herself.
Yeah, that's the sister Cheryl. She's in a robe. I would not be taking my clothes off in that fucking thing. Are you kidding me?
Well, she goes outside too.
Yeah, that does not happen in horror movies.
One thing I really noticed in that movie in particular is, people got hearing problems because there's a lot of screaming that nobody seems to have the time for.
What was that? Nothing.
Nothing. I was just playing this shitty card game with my lady friend.
I actually really liked the use of lighting for when 2013 Homegirl's down in the basement, and she tricks the one, like she's sitting down at the bottom of the cellar, and she's like, "Oh, you gotta come down here," and she comes down there, and it shuts, and she's creeping up as she's on the stairs, and you're just seeing a little bit of light coming through the floor, basically. I thought that was really good.
In general, Evil Dead 2013 is a very handsome film. Like some of the stuff they did earlier in the movie I really appreciated, where we don't actually get to night proper until more than a half hour into the film. Whereas the first one, the original one, is mostly at night.
Yeah.
Probably just easier to light and easier to do continuity with. But 2013, a lot of it takes place at like twilight and stuff, and there's a haze in the air that just looks really great. It looks very swamp or marshlandish, and it kind of translates to almost every set in the movie. Like even when they first enter the cabin, there's like this mist in the air that looks muggy and just stinky and awful. Whereas the original Evil Dead, you can tell they were trying to do that. Like they have that fog machine.
They have that fog machine.
They have that fog machine on blast.
Dry ice,
like,
fog, whatever.
They probably wore that fucker out like every night.
It broke several times. They had a fog machine person.
I'm sure they had to like do like last minute runs back to town to repair that shit.
I did have something that I caught this last time I watched the Evil Dead is they play the tape recorder, and that summons the evil spirits basically.
Yes.
Because the guy is reciting the incantation, I guess is what you call it, something like that.
Gundahar. Is that from like Lovecraft fiction or something?
The Necronomicon.
Well, I know the Necronomicon is, but like the various name drops he does to do the incantation.
It's very possible. I haven't read the Necronomicon
because I know Necronomicon like is lifted directly from the Lovecraftian mythos.
I think that's just what they call like the whole all of his books. Basically, they call it the Necronomicon because it's just all of his stuff basically. But yeah, he does make up a lot of names. I don't know for sure if it has anything to do with him or if that's Lovecraftian in some way. I couldn't really tell you.
No, whatever.
But I was thinking about. You remember when Judas Priest were in trouble? I don't know if you ever saw like the news clips when that kid I think killed himself or he killed somebody.
Oh. And
it was because of Judas Priest, and then they were sued because they were saying that you have subliminal messages in your music.
I know that was a big thing with like the heavy metal bands at one point.
And I was wondering if this was kind of a play on that. I don't know.
It could have been. I mean, late 70s seems like kind of the right era for it. I mean, that was just getting off the ground right then, as far as I know.
Alice Cooper was probably pretty popular at the time.
Well, yeah, and like Ozzy Osbourne, like Black Sabbath and stuff, they were kicking around.
Like if this was kind of like
I mean, everybody knows the story of playing the record backwards. It's basically a take on that.
That's what I thought. But it's also a very creative way to get the movie going.
Yeah, because it makes it so we can have these weird incantations, and it gives our characters an excuse to read them without being able to read them.
Exactly.
Because if it's in a funky language, of course, there's not going to be any real reason for them to be able to decipher that. Whereas in the 2013 one, we get a guy who's apparently into this occult shit.
That fucking nerd. He's the hardest nerd to kill in a movie.
Dude, that guy can take a hit.
He gets stabbed in the. He's
like Will Ferrell and Austin Powers. just like I'm not
very badly hurt.
Actually, I'm not dead. Just very badly burned.
I liked how Ash's girlfriend becomes the spirit's hype man. Like she's not threatening. She's just doing the.
Yeah, the playful tone is definitely there. It's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Because it is a loved one who's not behaving as they normally do and is just kind of mocking you.
Oh, I had a legit jump scare on this one rewatching it. Yeah.
Evil Dead 81.
I got the timestamp. 5609. I had a legit jump scare. I was fuck! Like I forgot about that. Makeup effects. Let's talk about the makeup effects.
Okay, let's talk about makeup effects.
Because the only thing after that really we'd have is stop motion and maybe the ending. How the two end. So makeup effects. What did you think of 81? Seeing it.
It wasn't bad. The contact lenses in particular were very effective because they have like that pink haze at the rim of them, so it's not pure white, and it gives it that otherworldly feel that's disturbing. And I'm not sure if it was the actual molding of the lenses, but it makes their eyes appear like bulging, kind of like a corpse does. Wildly inconsistent makeup. unfortunately.
Yes.
It's inconsistent in the sense that some effects work better than others, but also continuity from shot to shot. Like, you'll drive yourself nuts looking at the dirt on Ash's face.
Oh yeah, you can't.
He has this like little Mickey Mouse dot on his nose that it just keeps disappearing and coming back, and then like his girlfriend's makeup
is
like,
not good.
His girlfriend's it's not good. You can actually like, and somewhat Ted Raimi's makeup. You can actually like see the seams where the prosthetics are applied and where the makeup attaches to the prosthetics.
This was supposed to be seen on grainy VHS.
True.
It was probably really good at the time.
No, none of it's like glaringly bad.
No.
Except for like one shot.
There's a couple of shots.
There's a handful of shots. The worst one I noticed was when Ash's sister is first being put into the trap door, and Scott, not Ash, the more ballsy of the two at the time.
Yeah.
He's hitting her with the butt of the shotgun, and the close-ups that they use are of, it looks like not like a half-scale rubber mask with a fright wig held on a broomstick. It's very clearly not a human head, but they show it clear as day right in the center of the frame. And what's funny is we keep cutting from that to a shot from her perspective of the shotgun butt coming into the camera. You didn't need to show it. But I think that's actually a major theme of the Evil Dead series on the whole. Is Sam Raimi's style of horror, if you even want to call it that, because I don't think his intention is ever to really scare people. I think it's more to entertain.
Well, I think Evil Dead 1 was supposed to be scary. I think it was supposed to be a legit horror movie.
Fair, but his style seems to favor excess and just explicit imagery. So the things that you would normally cut away from, the things that you would normally scale back, he does in excess. So, for instance, dismembering a corpse. That's something that you can very easily, in a more tasteful film, demonstrate with shadow and sound effects. Yeah. You can just show the silhouette of the axe coming down and show people going,
yeah, and
then maybe show a shot of the aftermath. In this movie, though, we get to see like all the nitty gritty, and it carries on throughout the entire film, where all these violent things happen, and we get it put right in the center of the frame. And then they hold on it for way longer, and even the editing style, it's just like, nope, we're not cutting. We're not, like...
You know how fucking cold it was in this cabin? We're not cutting.
The most explicit example of this is... And this was so fucking stupid. Like, it made me laugh so hard. And I don't know if I was intended to. It was when the girl, not the sister, Scott's girlfriend...
Okay, yeah.
When after she gets pulled out of the fireplace and stuff, they have that ritual knife. She gets impaled on the knife, and she just rears back with this shriek for a solid 80-90 seconds.
It might have been.
And they just keep cutting between her going, "Wah!" and Bruce Campbell like fiddling with an axe, like, should I do something? I should do something. Should I do something?
I do know exactly which scene you're talking about.
Yes.
It goes on for a while, and I think that was supposed to be funny.
It goes so long,
and I think maybe like the Evil Dead 2. I think that was the movie he was trying to make.
I think so, because I mean, even the construction of the plot, you can tell that there were ideas that he couldn't execute.
I think that maybe like he wanted to make a funny movie and it was coming out a little bit in pieces, but I think they were still more focused on making a scary movie in the first one.
I mean, that's what you do if you're an aspiring filmmaker, is the horror movies sell. If you make a horror comedy, that's a weird subgenre that not everybody's down for. Clearly, you in particular are all about it, but like the Walmart people, I'm not so sure if everybody would get it. You know?
Well, I don't think Walmart people watch Evil Dead 1. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they probably jump ahead.
Yeah. But no, I was reading that the horror film, an introduction.
Yeah.
The guy mentions that a lot of horror movies include horror. At least this became a thing. Horror, nudity, and then comedy, and those are supposed to like. You need a little bit of comedy to kind of like, oh, I gotta relax a little bit before I get into this next scary part. Hereditary has none of it. Hereditary is heavy the whole way through, and it's awesome.
Well, that's the traditional rhythm. Is it's tension and release.
Yeah.
That's how you create a rhythm that favors storytelling and audience engagement.
And I think this was.
But if you're just like clenched in your seat the whole time, that's not pleasurable for a lot of people. That's painful and terrifying.
And Sam Raimi would know this going into making a horror film, and you can only convince your actor friends, to do so much nudity in a movie. You're like, this isn't Friday the 13th. Like, you're not getting nearly softcore porn.
Well, I think a lot of it just has to do with his personal sensibilities, because you can tell that he's a goofy guy.
Oh,
like in across all of his movies, there's a playfulness that it's just there.
I would like to hang out with the Raimis and Bruce Campbell, but I feel like it would just be like dads just jabbing at you, like, they're losing some hair up there, bucko.
Oh yeah,
you're kind of short, huh? just jabbing
relentless.
and I'm just loving it. Oh yeah, you guys.
And then like by hour 2, it's just like, fucking hate you, Bruce Campbell.
I think they'd be a lot of fun, but yeah, they're definitely there's gonna be some jokes at your expense.
I feel like Bruce Campbell would be the jock. He'd be swinging dick the entire time. And Ted Raimi would be the guy that gets blasted like an hour in. He'd get super drunk and just be...
Sam would have to take care of his brother.
Sam would be the one... I mean, Sam Raimi is notorious, infamous or famous. I don't know how you'd phrase this, but he's known to show up on set in a suit all the time.
Gotcha. So
he has an air of professionalism about him. Even though he has goofy sensibilities, he's there to work.
See, I think he'd be the dick, and I think that Bruce Campbell would just be like, let's lay off of him for a little bit.
Bruce would be the guy that's like, come on, let's have some shots.
I can't stress enough.
Nah.
You should really watch Ash vs. the Evil Dead, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's your fault it's off the air. All of you out there listening.
Not watching it.
All of you people, you didn't watch it.
Evil Dead 2013, we've kind of went off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we went off on a tangent there talking about the comedy stylings of Sam Raimi.
There is little to no comedy in 2013's.
Yeah, we should mention it was directed by Fede Alvarez from Uruguay.
Yes.
The only other movie, we actually looked him up prior to recording this. The only other movie he's done, at least as a feature film, was Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Was that Stephen Lang home invasion / slasher movie?
It's the buff dude from Avatar.
Stephen Lang.
Okay, and Bug Eyes from this movie. Main girl.
Okay. She was someone, Landy something or other. I guess she was a last minute replacement in Evil Dead. I was kind of surprised to read that because she was cast perfectly.
That's great. Glad you brought that up. I do think she is from the first season of Shameless, and then she was recast the next season.
You know who she reminds me of?
Who?
And this is not accurate, but it's just what popped into my head when I saw like the trailers for this movie. Vicky Valancourt.
She does. She has Vicky Valancourt's eyes.
She got Vicky Valancourt eyes, and she has that like, I've got some miles on me way about her, where it's like, I don't think this is all acting. Like, I think she's channeling like repressed memories or something.
I think she's just a good actress because she's playing in Shameless. She's kind of a trashy. Her dad's a piece of shit. Her brothers are all just drinking thugs, basically. And that's just she's surrounded by these gross dudes her whole life, and she's just kind of rough around. She's a sweet girl in that. But
she's got the kind of eyes that Tim Burton would go nuts for, but just film people in general go nuts for, because lighting those is just like it's like, wow, look at what we can accomplish just by putting some eye light on this gal.
Yeah, she has like the perfect, like the way her eyes are shaped. Yeah, she's perfect for this. Actually, the contact lenses you were referring to in 81 were actually crazy painful to wear.
They looked it.
I actually was gonna go as the Nightman from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you don't remember, Mac gets into a black gi, the karate thing, and he wears like cat eye lenses, and he goes, it's really funny. Charlie's The Nightman Cometh, but I put in one of the contact lenses, and it is unbearable. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I put one of them in, and I can't describe it. It's, I guess, like having saran wrap on your eye. Like, it's really painful. Like, you can't blink. Like, it's awful.
Well, I mean, that was definitely a consistent theme in Evil Dead 81. damn, like these are good friends. They took some bumps.
They were, I think a lot of the crew, I think there was like 13 members of the crew were just living in that cabin while they were there. And this was like...
It looked cold.
This was in Tennessee in the wintertime, I'm assuming, or late fall, early winter.
It looked cold. It looked miserable whenever they were outside.
They would not have been able to do that in Michigan.
And then you can tell pretty much all the bumps and bruises they took on the set, like when the cameras were rolling, were done by the actors.
I think
like
Bruce
Campbell went through a lot of furniture.
He twisted an ankle, and then I think Sam Raimi and another guy were teasing him, calling him a pussy.
Sounds about right.
I love it.
Yeah, Sam, think you're a big man on campus? Wait till I heal up.
Nerd. Yeah, the tone is pretty dark in the 2013 version.
Yeah, they play it very straight, although there are some goofy moments. They do, like we said earlier, they do pay homage to the racing, like lunging camera in the woods.
They do it really quick though, and I like that. They don't
play it to excess like they did, like Sam Raimi would do.
They also have different, like, the equipment's better. That's what makes that 81 so good. Is like, how's he doing this? Like, at one point when he's going across the water, the opening shot when he's going across water, he's just in a boat and he's being pushed by somebody. I think it was Bruce Campbell was just pushing him in a boat. Seriously.
No, part of the charm of that Evil Dead 81 is it has that Dead Alive, like Peter Jackson kind of feel. Like, I kind of adore those kinds of movies. I call them every trick in the book movies, where it's like, it's a low budget film, but we're going to use the tools at our disposal, and we're going to do every crazy camera setup we can. We're going to go the extra mile and do stop motion, even though we probably don't actually have to, but just because we want to.
I think that Sam Raimi has... I think he has a crush on stop motion because it shows up in all three of these movies.
Well, I mean, Army of Darkness has like some like explicit nods to like Ray Harryhausen in the form of like the stop motion skeletons, and these are movies that he probably grew up with, watching on television or in the theater, and these are all films that, you know, he probably wanted to pay tribute to. And now that he has the tools and the budget to do it, it's like, fuck, let's do it.
If I ever meet him, I'm gonna ask him if he's seen Spirit of Evil.
Yeah, I mean, so there's this movie called VIY. We don't know the pronunciation because we don't speak Russian.
No.
What year did it come out?
1967 from Soviet Russia.
Yes. Kyle stumbled across this little gem. It's a Soviet Russian, like, supernatural
fantasy horror. I think it's a Russian author. He has some fantasy novels. He has a couple of film adaptations. There's another one, I think it's got some stop motion as well. But you can definitely, I'm gonna say it is a good movie, but it's not a very watchable movie.
Yeah, this thing was hard to track down. The only like actual release I could find was a Japanese Blu-ray, which Kyle, I don't even know if he has a Blu-ray player, and it certainly isn't. It doesn't have English subtitles because it's a Japanese Blu-ray, and Japanese Blu-ray distributors are fucking assholes. So I ended up getting him off of eBay, like a bootleg DVD.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because like he.
No, he didn't.
You need to understand. Like, Kyle stumbled across this. He showed me like a trailer he found for it, and it was like, I need to see this.
I need to see it.
Especially since from the trailers it seemed like, you know, Sam Raimi seems to borrow a lot of tricks from this.
Yeah.
And I would be curious to know if he's heard of this.
If I was ever to bump into him, I just would ask, have you seen Spirit of Evil? Just real quick. Or if I ever bump into anybody that knows him, like, hey, Bruce, can you ask him if he's seen Spirit of Evil?
Like, fuck no, get away from me, kid.
Yeah,
go away, you bother me.
Can I touch your chin? No.
I mean, yes.
Hey, is that your girlfriend?
No joke.
I think between him and David Lee Roth, who's tried to bang more people's girlfriends. David Lee Roth. I did have like a legit I'll come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy. I'm like, that's your brother. No, sis, I'm fine. Yeah, nice try.
Little touches like that felt a little bit out of place because I don't know, the tone is like savagely like just like grim and intense throughout 2013, except instances like that where like the Deadites talk and it's lifted from the style of the 81 version. It almost feels like maybe they ran out of ideas and were just like, yeah, let's just pay tribute to the one that came before as opposed to completely doing our thing.
Well, I mean, the director's fairly young. I say he's probably a few years older than us, maybe 36, 37. I mean,
He's probably younger.
He might be younger than that. He's definitely seen the original Evil Dead. I can't imagine a horror film director who hasn't seen it.
As far as I know, he also wrote it, like the 2013 one.
Okay. He's seen it, so you pick and choose your nods. Like, you're like, I'm not gonna use Sam Raimi's camera angles. I'm gonna throw one or two in here just as like kind of keep with the story a little bit. Want to see?
Yeah, and I'm going to have the same number of characters and the same like gender configuration, like three girls, 2 guys, but they're not going to be the same characters or even have the same names.
But I think maybe what helps make that first one scary at the time, it's not scary anymore, was kind of the shit talking from the demon, like you're doomed, like your car's busted and you're not going anywhere.
The audio mixing in the first one is very strong. Mm-hmm. Regardless of the budget of the film, it's just very skillfully constructed. Like, it's very well layered. There's always a lot going on, and then there's not sometimes, and it's very effective when it gets quiet, because it doesn't happen too often. But when it's quiet, it's still suspenseful and still enjoyable. But like, there's some really chaotic scenes where like Bruce Campbell will be grappling with 2 deadites at the same time, and then the witch in the basement is yelling at him at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just like all this shit's happening, but it's all coherent.
I was noticing there's not a lot of music in the original, but what did you think of the music you did hear? It's very infrequent.
It's cheesy.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising, actually. It sounds like they got at least somewhat of a live orchestra. There's some good instrumentation, but then there's these weird synth parts that just sound cheap. They sound really chintzy. It seems really out of place, and it detracts from the overall feel to it a lot. 2013 one is just it feels like just orchestra strings and just that skeleton like nipping on a violin or like you know what I'm talking
I know what
about.
you mean. Yeah,
It's just a mess of noise. It's a cacophony of just oppressive sounds.
the composer is Joseph Loduca
For the first one?
Yeah, he is. He did Xena. He did the music for Xena.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah. I did not know. Okay, so this is kind of.
I recognize the name, but I can't place him.
Yeah, he did Xena. So Lucy Lawless, who plays Xena, is a Kiwi. She is from New Zealand. I did not know that. I had no clue. I watched that. I sent you that interview with her and Bruce Campbell. Like, what the.
That's what Lucy Lawless. That's what Xena sounds like.
So she is in Ash versus the Evil Dead now.
Yeah, that's a funny little connection.
And she is married to producer Rupert Tappert. He produced The Evil Dead and Xena, and he also produces, I do believe, Ash vs. Evil Dead.
So he probably called in a favor with the composer.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, bud, you want to stick around for the franchise?
Could
You get to hang out with Xena."
They plan the best dinner parties. That's the most fun dinner party. I feel like they have a great adult friendship family relationship. That's what I imagine.
One would hope. I mean, that's a lot of time spent together.
Ted Raimi is going to be coming up soon in Ash vs. Evil Dead. He hasn't shown up yet in the series, so I'm super excited about that.
Ooh. Well, I mean, you can't have that without him. I mean, fuck.
I wanted to say that another thing I liked about the 2013 was they do a good job of. There's some very gruesome gore. Like there's some really gruesome scenes.
And they carry on with the theme of putting it right in front of the camera and not cutting.
Right in front of the camera. And I think they do a good job of doing like creepy imagery and creepy movements, and then also gore. And we're not just focusing on one or the other. And I think there's a pretty even balance. Like they're like suspenseful moments that are creepy, and then we see some pretty gruesome moments. And this is 2013. I'd say we're still pretty much in the brutal.
We're just like escaping from the torture porn stuff. Like we're in the shadow of it. It's fading, but it's still there somewhat. And also, a lot has happened. Like horror is probably the fastest moving genre in all of film because the production cycles are very short and it's very trendy. Mm-hmm. You need to remember, like, not only did this 2013 Evil Dead film come out after torture porn, after like.
We're done with vampires at this point.
Yeah, we're done with vampires.
We're done with zombies. Zombies were
we're done
hard.
We're done with zombies. We're done with J horror.
Okay, yeah.
Which, you know, some of the
Comes up in here.
some of the acting,
Yeah.
like for the monsters and stuff, is somewhat reminiscent of that. So these are all potential influences for a product that is supposed to be a remake, but not entirely. It's kind of its own organism in a lot of ways. It
Yes.
just uses like the basic framework, and because the plot and the structure of both films is so loose and like threadbare, it's very forgivable. Like, I don't feel that 2013 Evil Dead shits on the first one at all.
No.
Like, I'm not disappointed that they deviated from it, because there's not much to deviate from.
We'll take this for instance.
And you also need to remember that the sequels to Evil Dead also happened. So that leads to the tone being a little confused as well.
Well, Gus Van Sant did a lot for the horror community, I think. He did a shot-for-shot remake of one of the most iconic thrillers, or I think was considered horror just from the ending, I think. I'm not really entirely sure what Psycho's supposed to be.
Psychological horror?
Psychological
maybe?
horror. He remade shot-for-shot Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
He likes to pretend he did, but it's not quite.
It's pretty close. But it was awful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely terrible.
Vince Vaughn was horribly cast.
Horribly cast, but like that, we've already seen it. It's already influenced a few decades of horror movies, and like, oh, I'm gonna redo it. And like, well, it's not gonna be scary because we already know what to expect. In this case, that's exactly what this director did not do. He's like, I'm gonna remake it, but I'm gonna make it my own.
Well, think of the toolkit he has.
He has, yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a fucking toolkit.
Even if he doesn't have much of a budget, it's still 1,000 times more than what they had.
He's like, Sam Raimi had a literal toolkit that he had in the trunk of his car. I have an entire like studio backlot of just stuff that I can rent from the studio and give back at the end of the day. Sam Raimi has to drive this shit home every night.
Every night.
And the missus is not happy about it.
I mean, let's see, where was it? Okay, there was a few things that from the new Evil Dead that I had a couple problems with.
Oh, really?
Not problems, but just like things with the story. I'm like, okay, whatever. Excuse me. So, whenever one of my favorite shots from that first one is when they're sitting down to dinner. And I think they might still be stoned. Do you know the story about them smoking pot?
Mm-mm.
So when they're listening to the recording, they were supposed to be smoking weed and listening to the recording, and they're like, all right, we'll just go method on this. And they really smoked pot, and I guess they were uncontrollable. Like, they were just...
I believe it.
Yeah. So they're sitting at the dinner table, and Ash is trying to get a toast out of some kind. And I think when they were filming it, they might have still been baked. And I think
so.
I think they were still, like, laughing
That was
at
just weird.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't even get his words out.
But the shot, I believe it's his girlfriend, or it might be his sister. I can't remember, but you can see her face, and in the background you can see the cellar. And I think it's a really good shot because she's just sitting there, and you see the cellar door just pop open.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite shots of the movie.
No,
I thought it was
it's a nice. It's not a jump scare, but it's a nice little effective moment where it's like, what was that?
It's building to jump scare. It's like you got to get those little things here and there to kind of get you warmed up, basically, because there's going to be a jump scare eventually. But what they do in 2013 though is they lift up a rug because they're like, something smells awful.
The dog finds it,
and then there's like a blood trail going into a cellar. I'm like, if you see a trail of blood anywhere, you get away from wherever you're at. If you have the means, get away.
Yeah, Evil Dead 2013 deviates very dramatically from the first one in that it starts off with a prologue.
Yeah.
There's just a random girl in the woods. She gets attacked by some seedy-looking redneck guys.
Yeah.
And then we get a shot of her in a terrifying basement with dead animals strung up from the ceiling and some like carnival sideshow freaks that I apologize if that's just how they are, but they were cast in a very specific fashion to look very strange. And then she goes all demon on her dad, and her dad blows her head off because reasons.
Yeah.
And then we cut to title, and then we pick up exactly where the original movie starts off with our people driving to the cabin. Major difference too is that I think the folks in the original Evil Dead hadn't been to the cabin.
No.
Whereas in the remake,
it's their family.
It's like their family cabin.
I think their mom's dead, and I think that's what started the heroin addiction.
Yeah. And yeah, the business with the basement turns out that the basement is the same basement from the prologue.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of dead animals strung up down there, and nobody seems terribly concerned about it.
No.
There's a gun with there's a shotgun with shells and a book made of human flesh and animals strung up from the ceiling, and everybody's like, yeah, we can chill here.
It makes sense that we have the prologue in the beginning, because there's no reason that would have happened unless she's like, somebody kicked in the door. Like, there was a reason why people were down there, and this is their family's cabin, as opposed to, oh, we're just going to this cabin in the woods. The other thing was when homegirl that saws her arm off.
Yeah.
She goes full Happy Gilmore on them with the nail gun. Where did we get a compressed air nail gun?
Oh, they actually established that.
I thought that they might have. I missed it because I was kind of cooking while watching this one.
The Ash equivalent, our main character, I forget his name, is like Edward or something.
Sure.
He's like boarding up windows.
Okay.
With it, or the trapdoor. No, it was like the windows, I think, with the nail gun. And her acting got dramatically better when she was in makeup, because when she was normal human blonde girl, she was just
dead-eyed. Yeah.
She was just like, there is a weak link in this cast, and it is you.
But yeah, when she does get in makeup, she's doing a pretty good job.
She does pretty well when she's in full makeup.
I think everybody does really well. I really like the creepy girl. She's in Cloverfield. She's the brother's girlfriend in Cloverfield. The nurse.
Oh, the fine nurse?
Yeah, the fine nurse.
Oof.
Yeah. Where she's it's on her cheek off, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it was kind of sad to see her go so early, especially because her scene in the bathroom with her, I think it's her boyfriend, the scholar guy.
The nerd's her boyfriend?
They came in the same car. And she like has a couple of asides with him.
She can do better.
She's like, quit reading that book, nerd.
Okay.
Anyway,
good job, bud.
Her attack scene in the bathroom with him is probably one of the highlights of the whole movie.
I think it's really good.
Her peeing her pants was a little awkward.
I thought that was good. I liked that touch.
I really liked when she stopped in her tracks. That was a very subtle effect that I don't know if it was purely good acting on her part or if they like put something up there for her to bump into. But like the way her feet planted, it was very effective.
And I think that highlights what makes this movie really good is that this is a remake that makes it does what I think Sam Raimi was kind of going for. It makes it scary, at least in this generation.
Yeah, I mean, the character I'm describing is present in his film and does attack our dudes, our pair of dudes, except it's in the living room, and she gets impaled with a ritual knife and screams for 90 seconds instead of gets her head bashed in with a toilet seat cover.
Well, maybe we've stumbled on why the remakes of like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. The reason why those slasher remakes aren't that good is because it's hard to make those slasher movies good. Like we had mentioned recently, The Strangers. Like that's an awesome slasher.
That is a very effective film.
Very good. But if you try to remake just Freddy Krueger, like there wasn't a lot really going on with it except for like Robert Englund's energy as the character.
Yeah, and if you remove him from the equation, what do you have? You have Jackie Earle Haley with pug face, and he's like 5'0" nothing.
Yeah,
so even next to was it Nomi Rapace or what? No, it's the lady who plays her in the girl with the dragon tattoo.
I can't even think about it.
Anyway, he's a very diminutive fella. And adding the confirming the pedophilia really hurt that script.
Yeah.
We really heard it.
That's what pedophiles were. They just killed kids in the 80s.
It was never explicitly stated in the old Nightmare movies.
Actually, you could just get away with it back then. I think you could just
you absolutely could.
That was a Louis C.K. bit. He's like, we just had a pedophile. Like he's like, he had like a French name or something. Like you just didn't stay at his house. You didn't go to his house.
You could get away with it, but. Moreover, like one of the biggest blunders in that Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and it's just a garbage film in most ways. Even the effects work is terrible.
Not good.
Is the fact that they like tied the main characters in with him personally. And it's like, oh, he did something to me when I was a child. It's like,
eesh.
I don't need that in my slasher movie. Like, Jesus.
No, thank you.
But another thing with the horror genre is, like I said, it moves so fast. And when you think of slasher movies, Halloween was the first one.
Mm.
Like not the first one. I mean, Psycho, I guess, could be that too, but the first one to hit like mainstream success and create the template on which all the others are built from.
I think that it built the 80s template. I think that...
And it was like 1978.
78. And it's great. Like, it's really good. But it's also...
But think how many years have passed since then.
Yeah.
And think of what happened in the 90s. We got Scream.
I hate Scream. I'm sorry.
Well, Scream is what happens when these tropes exist long enough, is you get people bored of that but still obsessed with it, like diehard fans of it, and they turn to subversion for their entertainment. Or it's like, let's trick the audience into thinking that, oh, this is going to be one of those movies, and then do something else instead. Let's show them the left and give them the right. And I think we're kind of in the midst of that kind of stuff right now too, where it's like we're getting this wave of horror movies that are made by immensely talented people that are legit trying to make scary movies, as opposed to making trash that is just meant to make a studio money or, you know, be a sequel to something.
I really need you to watch Hereditary.
I need to see it.
If you're listening to this, watch Hereditary if you like scary movies. It's, I think, one of the best horror movies right now. Like, just within probably the last 10 years, I'd say it's one of the best horror movies.
Past few years have been really big for horror movies. Like The Witch, like a couple years ago, was excellent.
I like it. I like Hereditary better than The Witch. Like The Conjuring, Insidious. I like Insidious too. Paranormal Activity, when I first watched it, kind of got me. Now it doesn't.
I could see that.
It was a fun movie. It was pretty effective at the time. But yeah, Hereditary, get on it. Get on it, and do not. You need to make sure you have something funny to watch after that, because it's got a lot. And I was going to ask you, like, where do you think it's going right now, but you don't know because you haven't seen Hereditary, so I'll just save that for a different day.
Like I said, horror movies tend to be very trendy. They come in waves. However, that one might be an exception because it's such a unique film from what I understand.
House of the Devil is on par with it. It's not on par, I'm sorry. It's very similar in the content. Like, they have a similar story. Not entirely the same, but there's... Watch the two, you'll get what I'm saying. But House of the Devil is really good as well. 2009-ish. Tom Noonan.
Hey, my boy.
Right? Okay, so we've pretty much covered, like, the effects, the story, everything. I want to get into the stop motion, if you're ready for that at all.
Yeah, we may as well talk, like, just straight up effects and stuff.
Sorry, I had one other problem. So at the end of Evil Dead 2013, he goes to take a picture of the four of them together. Why the fuck would you want to take a picture to commemorate, like, to remember what just happened in this cabin? He's like, oh, here's the four of us. Like, you watched Homegirl cut her own mouth open. Your nerd is dead. Like, why would you want to take a picture? He dies or he gets stabbed in the neck shortly after that. So it's neither here nor there.
Well, on the whole, I mean, the movie actually makes a sincere attempt to, like, have emotional resonance, whereas the first one does not.
No. So the stop motion. I do remember, I think this is the second one that has the skeleton chasing him. I think it's Evil Dead 2. Is that the one?
I think Army of Darkness has that too.
Army of Darkness definitely has
a lot
something.
of skeletons.
Yeah. But the second one's where Sam Raimi takes it for a walk. Like, he spends a lot of time on it. I love the decomposition stop motion in this.
They put a lot of time and effort into that.
A lot of it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that Sam Raimi has, like, he has a passion for it, but I think he had a passion for it because he had to. Like, this was how he was going to have to get things done, because I don't see him doing his own, like, Sam Raimi presents A Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, he's not producing, from what I can tell, or doing his own stop motion. Even these days. I mean, I can't think of anything.
No. I think he just has a love for camera trickery.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys out there who are really into that kind of stuff. Like Peter Jackson and Guillermo del Toro both seem to have that in them. Where it's
Peter Jackson, definitely.
You need to think of what it means to be a film director. It's like you...
I have no idea what it means.
No, but part of it is being a showman in some ways. Like, I notice a lot of my friends that are creative types, they're mostly subdued personalities, but they use their art to be an exhibitionist. Mm-hmm. So they're mostly quiet when you talk to them, but when it comes to, like, presenting products, Like that's where they come alive, and that's where you can see how they actually are, and that's how they get their win, I guess. And I think it was like Quentin Tarantino had the belief that like all of film is magic. It's an illusion because technically all you're seeing on the screen is still images being passed through a lens at 24 frames a second. So technically you're not even seeing motion. You're just seeing a slideshow. You're seeing individual images moving quickly, which is an interesting concept. And it brings to mind like a magician, a stage magician or something. And guys like Christopher Nolan, he has like an immense pride in doing as much effect shots as he can in camera. And not only that motherfucker has the worst supplements on his DVDs you'll ever see.
He's not showing you shit.
He doesn't show you anything because he has this belief that it's magic. We can't talk about that.
Well, he did The Prestige. Have you seen The Prestige?
Exactly. Yeah. So this is what I'm getting at. Is I get this kind of vibe from some film directors, and I feel like Sam Raimi just has a love for just camera trickery in general, like putting the camera in interesting places, tilting it at interesting angles, lighting things in interesting ways.
And then Spider-Man 3 happened. Oh.
Well, a lot of that movie was studio interference. But a lot of the effects work in that movie was very ambitious for the time. I'm
gonna need to go back and watch Darkman now that it's come up. I think I'm gonna have to go back.
I enjoy Darkman. I like Darkman.
I liked it up until the carnival. I'm like, okay.
And there's even stop motion in Darkman.
Yeah, see, that's why I want to go back. I want to go back and check it out.
And there's some like really shitty rear projection shots when they're fighting on the skyscraper. But yeah, there's stop motion in the form of his skeletal hands typing on a keyboard.
Oh, really?
It's just a simple shot of like these malformed hands that are so skeletal that it couldn't possibly be actual human hands. Awesome. because they're too thin, you know. Unless it was like Doug Jones's hands or something.
I just wanted to mention real quick because I finally watched it, The Evil Within.
Oh,
I didn't watch it. What I did was I looked for the stop motion scenes that I wanted to watch.
That's
because
right.
It was on Prime. I'm like, I'm not paying for this. Because the story, I watched the trailer. I'm like, I don't like this story. I don't like this actor. He's supposed to be playing somebody who's mentally challenged. And I'm like,
Kyle showed me the trailer for this. He stumbled across it. It has the fella from The Hills Have Eyes.
The original Hills Have Eyes. Yeah.
I forget his name, but he has an unusual skin and cranial condition that makes him have an interesting look.
Part of his poster part of his face.
The Hills Have Eyes poster is in the basement of the first Evil Dead.
There's a story behind that, but I can't recall it verbatim. So we'll have to look it up later.
It's just paying tribute to what came before. You know?
I think it was
a 70s horror film.
In The Hills Have Eyes, they have a movie poster of another horror movie that came before that, and they did it because they wanted to be scarier than that movie. And
there's a long tradition of doing that, and I kind of like stuff like that.
Yeah, it's nice.
Horror is its own little community.
But I think there's two good stop motion sequences in The Evil Within, and the one I showed you is in the trailer.
Yeah.
But if you you get a sec, do watch it because it is really, really good. I really like it.
If you give me the time code or something,
I'm
not watching the whole fucking movie.
Nobody watched that whole movie, but watch the stop motion. I thought that was really good. But the ending to 2000, I mean,
we should talk about the ending of both because I think it's worth going over because they're very different.
They're vast.
They diverge greatly.
I think that. Well, go ahead. You tell me what you thought of the ending of 81.
It probably my favorite part of the whole movie. As soon as Ash is alone, it turns into The Gate, which, as we've both said, is a movie. You know, little Brad Dourif fighting the forces of evil.
Brad Dourif, Stephen Dorff.
No, Stephen Dorff. Yeah,
Stephen
Dorff. Little Stephen Dorff. Little Frost.
Yeah, that little Brad Dourif would be a terrifying child.
I don't want to see what that looks like. Yeah.
No.
Stephen Dorff. Little Stephen Dorff fighting the forces of evil, and part of the charm of that movie, for me anyway, is seeing this little boy have all of his security stripped away from him. Like his best friend gets abducted by these monsters and then shows up to mock him later. His sister, I think, gets jacked, or at least the babysitter or something. There's a girl in there.
The dog's killed, I think.
The dog's killed. His parents show up in like demon form, and he thinks he's safe, and then it turns out he's not.
Yeah.
And it puts you in that child child's mind where it's like, oh shit, like all the things that I could run to when I was in trouble are now gone. It's just me and this big scary stop motion monster. Evil Dead 81 kind of has that vibe to me where it's like all of his friends have turned on him and like become these horrible monsters, and then suddenly the movie for once gets quiet and we get all these like really skillfully shot and lit in particular scenes of him like dashing around the house trying to put shit together, like trying to figure out a plan, because there is no plan. We get a really nice scene where he actually like mutters to himself about like getting bullets for the gun. Like he's like, oh, where did I put those shells? And he actually goes down to the basement and stuff, and it has that like into the abyss kind of feel to it where it's I like that kind of filmmaking. Like I've always wanted to make like a short film where all it is just a person trapped with like a monster in the room and it's just you and them and figure it out. And it has that kind of feel, and then they mess with like the psychology of the character too, where they have that cheap but effective shot of him putting his hand into the mirror and just he's like stripped down to nothing and he somehow manages to persevere, and then we get the twist ending. But I just like the quieter moments and like all those fun close-ups of his face like just being terrified and not knowing what to do. I think I like that stuff more than like the goofy like attack sequences, because unfortunately I've already seen Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, so I know what those scenes can be. Yeah. I know those scenes can be done better. So like just seeing the cheap shots of like running around in the house with the camera and putting the lights in exactly the right place and letting Bruce Campbell's face go nuts was just more fun to me, I think.
Gotcha. I was gonna say I like the ending of the very last shot we see is just him going to his face.
The presence in the woods bashes through the cabin and then like goes straight into his face, and then we get cheesy like corny music to remind you that you were supposed to enjoy this. It wasn't supposed to terrify you.
No, well that's a good horror movie ending where you're like, did he make it or not? Like you don't...
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
If you ask me, anyway.
But I think that's the only way you should be able to end a horror movie. Like I think that's the way to go. Like,
yeah, I think
the last person does not survive. I think that makes it more fun. Halloween doesn't do it, but that's a great movie still.
Thing 82 has a wonderful cliffhanger.
Great cliffhanger. Maybe one of the best, actually.
Let's just see what happens.
Well, yeah, just to see what happens. Like, these two are gonna die within an hour, whether if one of them is a thing or not. But just because it's so cold out, like they're gonna die. I've lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, but I think it's a good way to end a horror movie, and I think that horror movies should end like that.
No, I mean, I think even your book, the horror film, what was the title again?
It's The Horror Film and Introduction. I can't think of the author.
You folks out there might want to give it a read. Kyle read it for a class, and then he handed it off to me to give a read.
I've been wanting to say this for a while, and I just put it between Trevor and I. We have about not even a minor in film classes under our belt.
Yeah, so don't pretend that we're authorities on the subject.
I am not going to sit here for a second, and I don't know what I'm talking about for the most part. I'm just a movie fan, and we're talking about movies.
This podcast may as well be called Bullshit Podcast.
This is like Introduction to Film 101. We're literally watching movies and coming to class with our notes. Like
yeah, I mean, no joke. I watched this movie yesterday.
Yeah, seriously.
Like last night.
Our knowledge comes from what little classes we've had and what reading we do on our own.
Exactly.
Outside of class. But yeah, we are not film majors at all. You probably figured it out if you're a film major.
If you've been listening at all.
It's a tracking shot, you dumb fucks. Like, it's so easy to say. What are you doing?
Yeah, even in your book,
yeah,
the horror film, the introduction, I think they mentioned that like there's two ways to end a horror film. There's one with like the traditional like early days horror film where the breeding pair survives and there's hope on the horizon, and then God, I hate this word, postmodern horror film where all is lost.
I love that.
Or it's left ambiguous. And yeah, traditionally that seems to be the way you end a quote-unquote good horror film.
Which is why the ending of Deep Blue Sea is a lot of fun, because you are not expecting that ending at all. Like, you're not expecting that to happen.
The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, both of them actually, because I guess there were two different endings for the original That's the '70s one.
Oh, okay.
Kyle just made a face at me. If
I
you've
mean,
seen, if
the
you've seen the
Donald
19,
Sutherland, yeah.
if you've seen the 1970s Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you know what it looks like. But I guess the original version also had like 2 endings shot, and I think they, if I remember right, the released version of the film has the mega happy ending.
Probably.
But the alternate ending, the true ending that sticks to the script, was apparently very ambiguous and dark.
You know what's interesting, and I think this would be a good one to do an episode on, is because neither one of us has seen the Vincent Price House on Haunted Hill, but we've both seen the 1998, 99-ish one.
Yes.
You know who makes it at the end of that?
No.
A breeding pair.
That's right.
It is, I can't remember who the black gentleman was. He was very popular in the 90s. I can't think of his name.
Delroy Lindo.
No.
Oh, damn.
I think Ali Larder's the other one that makes it. So we have a pair at the end that's actually interracial, which I don't know if a horror movie's ever done that before. That might, I'd be interested to see, because that was
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I just watched that.
The Misfits make it out of that one.
Yeah. Well, it was.
Well, I mean, they aren't a pair though. Like, they're just like 3 people that hang out together.
If you think of the time in which the movie was made.
I mean, George Romero was kind of progressive.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the '60s, he was way ahead of the curve.
Well, it's if you're a horror movie director, you know what horror movie endings are supposed to be, and you would deliberately put those cast members into it. I think it was an interesting choice by the director.
Absolutely.
I just thought of that. I don't know why.
So what about the climax to Evil Dead 2013?
Well, we get a little J horror with it. We're definitely getting the.
We get a little video gamey with it. It turns into a fucking boss fight.
Yeah, it does.
I was expecting life bars to appear on the screen.
What is the name? The ring girl basically pops
Sadako.
up. Yeah. She pops up from underneath.
Yeah, it's telegraphed, but not explicitly. Like, well, kind of. So our scholar fella, the Scott equivalent, the unkillable nerd, he's fiddling with the Necronomicon throughout the entire movie, and he's the one that's pushing this idea that every bad thing that's happening right now is because of this book. And they put a little cute Easter egg in there where he tries to burn the book, which is how things get resolved in the first movie. But in the remake,
so he's not burning.
He's actually has this almost tearful moment where he's like, "It won't burn." But yeah, he's flipping through the pages, and very much like the Ninth Gate, the only pages that seem to matter are the one with illustrations. And yeah, he deciphers some of the script, and it turns out that there's a ritual that if 5 people die here, some sort of demon will come back. And there's this one etching in there that is very clearly I think modeled after the poster of the original Evil Dead, except for it's a corpse coming out of the ground instead of a lady being pulled underground by something coming out of the ground. So we kind of get a mirror of that image of a corpse coming out of the ground.
I didn't even
and the
notice
sky
that.
rains blood, because he even states that the sky will rain blood and this thing will come back.
The Gwar roadie was finally allowed on set.
Yep. He's just like, it's my time.
That would have been cool if somebody could like put a shot in where the lead singer Gwar has got the hose of blood and he's doing his thing. If you could just like put it in somewhere and like edit it in, that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like a B-roll shot of someone like doing like on-set photography and just like off 20 feet to the side, this guy just like rocking out.
That would have been a nice little trivia thing. The crew were listening to Gwar while they were doing this scene.
Yeah, this entire scene was conducted with Gwar blasting.
If you don't know who Gwar are, look them up. But yeah, so it's a suspenseful scene. Like it
starts out, it's very noisy, but it has this rhythm to it where it goes like super loud and intense, and then it slows down and it turns into a more suspenseful sequence. It's a cat and mouse scene, but outdoors for the most part, where this corpse lady is chasing our no longer deadite Vicky Valancourt. She gets buried alive and comes back to life.
Yes.
Like this feels like a stupid thing, but it works.
It works.
Again, she's a pretty good actress, and the scene when she's being buried is very effective.
Very. She's very good.
Acting through a plastic bag must be very terrifying,
Scary.
and yeah, I'd be really concerned for my own health. She does it very well, and the things that her in demon form says to her brother, I Want to Suck Your Cock is not scary, but talking about our dead mom and you driving me to drug use and potential suicide and things like that, that's effective. And yeah, he buries her alive, and according to the book, this is how you can kill a deadite. And it fucking works.
It works.
And she becomes our new main character because he dies very shortly after. So it's her and the demon gal, like, one-on-one. Sky is raining blood. This scene looked like it was torture to film.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Because imagine filming in the rain for a few days or a week or whatever, but it's blood rain.
Yeah.
So it's probably like thick and awful.
Imagine doing the movie 7, but with blood.
but with blood
but
rain.
with fake blood, yeah. This movie, I had forgotten about the ending, and I'm really glad I went all the way through it. It has what I love, an inventive movie death. Something new that we haven't seen. I have never seen this.
It has a few of them, actually.
What was the couple of the other ones?
Well, I mean, the girl getting her head bashed in with a toilet part was kind of effective. And
You haven't seen the Boondock Saints.
And, I mean, he didn't die, but, man, that nerd took a beating.
He did take a beating.
Everything...
The syringe to the eye stuff.
The syringe to the eye.
Brutal.
Yeah. And I like that he survived that, because in most movies he would have died.
Yeah.
Because it would have been convenient for that to just kill him. But in real life...
He pulls the needle. Oh.
That's a theme that carries over throughout the entire film. And it's, again, like kind of paying homage to the style of Evil Dead 81, where it's put right front and center. The uncomfortable parts that normally we cut away from, we're going to show in torturous detail.
Yeah.
Where every time somebody gets a nail put into them, which is a lot.
It happens a few times.
To a few different people, we get to watch them very slowly yank the nail out of themselves. We get to see him pull a syringe out of his sinus cavity.
Yeah.
We get to see a girl cut her own arm off in detail
That's
on camera front and center.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and they do not shy away from any of it.
What I'm talking about specifically is the
chains.
chainsaw to the mouth. Like, it's awesome. Like,
Well,
like she's just going to town on this.
Yeah, so this demon, very similar to Blade, supposedly horrific, like world-ending demon, destroyed it with conventional means. So the Blood God,
Yeah.
Stephen Dorff, not Brad Dourif.
Not Brad
Stephen Dorff is killed by drugs, like drugs and syringes, and he gets exploded and dies. The demon in Evil Dead 2013 gets killed with a chainsaw to the mouth, and that's it.
Well, if you think about it, Trevor.
Yes.
The demon has to kill 5 people, and there are 4 people at this cabin. They've killed 4 people, but she's the 5th one, so the demon would have to kill the 5th person to come back all the way.
I counted her as the 5th person.
She's not dead, though.
No, but she died and came back. He had to resuscitate her.
But she came back before the last person died, so she's alive.
I don't think this demon is like half powered. I think
we're reading too much into the narrative.
I think we're turning into neckbeards over Evil Dead
We're
2013.
really neckbeardy.
But no, I counted her as the 5th death because there's even repetition of it where the nerd says they had to defibrillate her when she overdosed before.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, she was legally dead for a minute or whatever, and I guess she died again. So this lady's died twice.
She's gonna have brain damage.
One of the more effective violent moments in the movie, and there's a lot of them, to me anyway, was when she's hiding in the shack and she gets a machete put across the top of her knee.
Yeah.
The sound design of that, oof.
Yeah.
Oof, oof, oof. Very effective.
Very effective. But yeah, I like, because we got to circle back to this is a horror movie. Like, this is just nonsense what we're seeing. So it's just really cool that we went with a chainsaw to the mouth,
and she holds it there for a good solid minute,
and then chainsaws up the mouth, like up through the head.
Yeah, so
I thought it was great.
She splits this gal's head in half. Yeah, that was one of those moments that I was chuckling at because it was just so
funny.
It's funny.
It's
like
funny.
There's so much. It's very detailed gore that should not be funny, but combination of like her posture, like she looks like one of your Gwar guys going like, whoa.
Yeah, like she's fucking feeling it.
Yeah, she's like feeling it in her hips, and like she's just like got this thing in her face.
She's mouth fucking her with a chainsaw.
Yeah,
like
and you can tell she's just like putting everything into it,
Yeah.
and it goes on and on and on, and there's blood everywhere, and
I love
it's
that.
a little bit winkingly funny in some ways.
It is a little bit, but this is like grand finale. Like, just
Yeah, if you're
fuck it.
if you're gonna hit someone with a chainsaw in a movie in 2013,
you gotta make it memorable.
yeah, you got to make it special because we've seen a lot.
We
of
have
this
we have a whole franchise dedicated to somebody killing people
Yeah,
with a
we
chainsaw.
have multiple franchise. Well, not franchise, but we have multiple films now where people have had chainsaw fights.
Oh yeah.
It's just- I mean, I think Motel Hell had that. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 had that.
I did
Apparently,
not watch that shit.
that Mandy movie apparently had it
I
too.
cannot- Oh man, I'm so pissed that it was only in theaters for like the weekend. Like there was one weekend.
I think you can rent it now on online.
No way.
I think so.
Give me a sec. It's on Prime.
Yeah, I told you.
Fuck yeah. Oh, I can't wait to watch this.
So, in case you didn't notice, Kyle is going to be watching. Kyle is going to be catching up on Mandy.
I will be catching up on Mandy this week, and I can tell you that right now because I've heard some really good things about it. And maybe we're bringing Cage back. Oh,
Cage is back, baby.
bringing back Cage.
I'm Castor Troy. Yeah.
God, that's a great movie.
Want to take his face?
Yeah, I think that was I mean, pretty much it I had for the Evil Dead.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a. You need to understand. This is more of like a celebratory podcast.
Yes.
This is just a. This is the Chris Farley show of catching up on cinema.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was like, yeah. Remember the
part
where the girl put the chainsaw into the other girl's mouth?
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Well, actually, you should listen to this if you are under the impression that the original Evil Dead is unwatchable.
Absolutely
Or you're like,
not.
if you're like, that's what I'm saying. I have a good friend of mine. He loves movies, and I'm like, you should watch this. You should watch this older movie. It's really really good. And he's like, nah, it's just too old for me, man. I can't watch it. And I'm like, well, what's the deal? He's like, you can find something that you like out of those old movies. He's like, I can't really do it. I'm not a film nerd. I don't like that. And like, that's what we're arguing here is that you should definitely go back and watch that 1981 version because it's still a lot of fun. And you pay attention to it, and you'll find it ambitious.
Well, for me, I don't know if this translates to you as well, but for me, the most enjoyable part of watching it was knowing who made it.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching this movie from 1981, made with very little money, and just on a hope and a prayer with some good buddies in the woods, and then seeing where Sam Raimi's gone with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of neat being able to see like these little quirks carry over into multi-million-dollar films. It's like, people are the way they are,
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if they're doing Spider-Man or Army of Darkness or Evil Dead or fucking The Quick and the Dead.
I haven't seen.
You haven't seen The Quick and the
No.
Dead. That's a fucking western about a gunfighting tournament that still feels like a Sam Raimi movie.
Wow, I didn't know that was possible.
Exactly. And that's part of the fun is just seeing these movies, knowing that they all came from the same guy, and like being able to readily identify what makes it a Sam Raimi movie.
No, it'd be something interesting to do is actually take one of Peter Jackson's old movies,
Peter Jackson?
like Dead Alive or The Frighteners, which I would like to do an episode on The Frighteners. I think that'd be a lot of fun to. I know you've seen it, but
I
kind of in defense of, more or less, like,
It's a good movie.
it's a good movie.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
And I kind of wanted to talk about it too, just because of all the movies it went up against the year it was released. Holy
Stacked
shit! That's
fucking year. Yeah.
I think that it would be a fun one to do just because of that, just because of all the movies it went up against.
Yeah, I mentioned Peter Jackson
Peter Jackson.
earlier in the podcast. Just he kind of has that same feel to him, where it's like he did Dead Alive. He also did Lord of the Rings. He also did King Kong, and I, as an admirer of film, can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see him in all of those movies in equal doses. And that's kind of amazing. Like seeing like a so-called dignified production like the Lord of the Rings trilogy have that much in common with Dead Alive.
Well, you see Peter Jackson go from a neckbeard to a billionaire, basically.
Well, you also see him going from a husky gentleman to a skeleton making King Kong.
Is he skinny there?
He put a lot of himself into the making of that movie,
okay.
and it took a toll.
Gotcha.
He used to be a portly gentleman.
He
He
used to be.
used to look like Sala from Indiana Jones. He used to look like John Rhys Davies.
Yeah. I think that's about it. But yeah, I don't know what we'll be catching up on next time. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I enjoyed catching up on Evil Dead.
Yeah, hell yeah. Go watch it and Hereditary.